Many things piss me off about mainstream media, how they're covering the Epstein case and how they're missing not only the dots, but how to connect the dots. I'm going to connect the dots right here between the relationship, the close friendship between Todd Blanche, who is Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer masquerading as our number two in the Department of Justice, his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Markus, that goes back, well back in time, how neither of them have disclosed it, how it's part of the cover-up. And then one more link in the chain, the relationship between David Oscar Markus and Alan Dershowitz, who was Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, who negotiated the non-prosecution agreement back in 2008 that let him off the hook and let him continue the depraved sexual misconduct and preying on girls for a long time after that, and Dershowitz's role in that, and Dershowitz's connectivity, if any, between him and one of the most publicized victims, Virginia Giuffre, who Donald Trump, just in a moment of truth-telling, confessed that the reason that Jeffrey Epstein and him stopped having any kind of friendship is because he was poaching young girls from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was mad about it. I'm going to tie all of that together on the Midas Touch Network in our hourly, daily, weekly coverage of the Epstein scandal cover-up and the stench that is hanging over the White House as a result. Take a moment, hit the Midas Touch subscribe button, come on over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel that I do in collaboration with the brothers. Hit the subscribe button there as well. It's maddening to me that mainstream media will either report on a dot, on a fact, on a data point, and then ignore its implications, or won't connect the dots for you, and which is why we formed Midas Touch and Legal AF to do it. I reported on this very relationship between David Oscar Markus and Todd Blanche last week. And now mainstream media is just getting around to saying, hey, there seems to be a very close relationship between the two, and that might be part of the cover-up. You think? What am I talking about? Let's start with the first leg of this multi-sided conspiracy approach that I'm going to talk about here. Todd Blanche, criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump, gets promoted to be the number two in the Department of Justice when Trump wins election. He is the one that Donald Trump picked to go meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, but it wasn't just a random pick. And they gave her immunity before the meeting, not random, and they're considering a pardon, not random. The connectivity between Todd Blanche and David Oscar Markus, who's the lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell, and David Oscar Markus's relationship with Alan Dershowitz, all is now blown out into the open. So here's how it goes down. Todd Blanche is friends with David Oscar Markus, the lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell. David Oscar Markus got brought in by Alan Dershowitz, who had been the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein. I always find it remarkable that Alan Dershowitz can go on Fox News and on Newsmax and all the right-wing media from his perch of being a former Harvard law professor without revealing that he was Epstein's lawyer who negotiated the non-prosecution agreement that is the basis for Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal to the United States Supreme Court, and his role in letting the guy continue to be a predator when he got a sweetheart deal negotiated with Alex Acosta, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, who eventually got promoted to be Donald Trump's labor secretary. You see the dots that get ignored? So Dershowitz never reveals that he was Epstein's lawyer. He says out loud recently that she is a victim because she took the fall for Epstein, who died while before his trial could start. That was your client at one point. I mean, I don't know if because your client died under mysterious circumstances or not, you get to breach attorney-client privilege and say he's not guilty. He was guilty, not her. I don't think that's how that works, but we'll leave that for a minute. Here's the close relationship now between Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's favorite criminal defense lawyer, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who's a friend of Donald Trump's, had been a friend of Donald Trump, and her criminal defense lawyer. Let's play the clip of a Little Watch podcast that David Oscar Markus has on. I watched it. I caught it. It's from a year ago, well back before this issue. Watch how they giggle like schoolgirls and how smug they are in their relationship. Run the clip.
Okay, I want to welcome Todd Blanche to For the Defense. everybody knows who Todd is, and he's the first guest on For the Defense to appear twice. So welcome to the show, Todd.
That is an honor. Thank you very much, David. I really appreciate it.
So, I mean, you were a federal prosecutor. I'm sure you never could have imagined this when you were first starting out as an assistant United States attorney. How did you get here, Todd? How did you end up representing Donald Trump and being in trial in the first of its kind case?
Well, no, you're right, David. I'd never imagined, even during the trial, I would kind of check myself occasionally and be surprised at where I was every day.
What does that tell you about the friendship between the two of them? Thank you for being on. You're the first person. I'm honored to be the first person to ever appear twice on your Little Watch podcast. Ha ha. So here is confirmation of what I described a week or so ago. Here's how the conversation went. Trump to Blanche. You know her lawyer? I do. He's a good friend of mine. What's his name? David Oscar Markus. Oh, I remember David Oscar Markus. Yeah, we were considering hiring him for something else as well. He's a Federalist Society guy, friend with Dershowitz. Okay, give him a call. Find out what she's going to say about me. Right? This is my artist rendering. Find out what he's going to say about me. And if she's going to absolve me and she's only going to dump on 100 other people, including people named Clinton, then you should go meet with her. And well, we'll have to give her immunity. Of course you're going to give her immunity. To a convicted child sex trafficker. You should give her immunity, but start with your friendship. Call up Markus, have him tell him he needs to tell you what she's going to say before I'll agree to let you give her immunity, and then you can go meet with her. Okay, let's go do that. Next scene. Next scene. Blanche to Markus, or Markus to Blanche in an email. Call me. All right, look, I can't give you much detail, but you're going to have to give me a proffer of what she's going to say. And depending upon what your proffer is, then I'll decide whether I'm going to give her immunity. The boss is going to give her immunity, and I'm going to meet with her. Oh, she's going to let Trump off the hook. She doesn't know anything about Donald Trump. He wasn't on the island. He wasn't on the plane. She doesn't have any relevant knowledge about Donald Trump. But she does have relevant knowledge about 100 other powerful people. Okay, I'm going to give you proffer immunity based on that proffer. I'm going to come up to Tallahassee for a couple of days. You and I can go grab a steak or a beer, and we can go sit down with your client. How's that sound? Sounds great. Let's do it. Okay. This is pretty close to what happened, by the way. You know? And Dershowitz pumping behind the scenes. They go up and have that meeting. None of them, Blanche doesn't disclose it, and David Oscar Markus doesn't disclose their close personal friendship and relationship. And that's a problem. Right? If you want to be transparent, you would say a version of the following. I have a relationship with David Oscar Markus that predates this issue. However, it's not impairing my judgment or my decision-making about my client, Donald Trump. That would be Blanche. And David Oscar Markus would say out loud, I just want to clear up something. I have a relationship that predates this issue with Todd Blanch. But I'm not abusing it, and it's not an abuse of power or abuse of the friendship, but they would disclose it. Nobody discloses it.
Hey everybody, Ben Meiselas here from the Midas Touch Network. I wanted to let you know about my podcast partner, Michael Popok's new law firm. It's called the Popok Firm. Michael Popok's pursuing his dream of starting his own law firm, really based on the popular demand by all the Midas Mighty and legal AFers who were approaching Michael Popok with their cases and saying, can you help us? And at that time, Popok was not able to. So he went out on his own. He started the Popok Firm, where he is now handling catastrophic injury cases like car accident cases, trucking cases, malpractice cases, big negligence cases, wrongful death cases. So if you or someone you know have a case like this, the consultation with Popok's firm is free. Give him a call. See if you have a case. It's thepopokfirm.com, thepopokfirm.com, or you can call 877-POPOK-AF, P-O-P-O-K-A-F. So 1-877-POPOK-AF. Give Michael Popok a call. And I'm really proud of you, Popok. Thanks for all the hard work you're putting in.
And David Oscar Markus is like chattering teeth in a glass. You remember that thing? It was like you bought it from a novelty store, you know, and you put it on the table, chatter, 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 chatter. You know, I used to love that thing, by the way. You know, these little chattering teeth on your nightstand. David Oscar Markus sees a bank of microphones. He can't stop talking, even if it's not his bank of microphones. So he's constantly, it's all campaigning for the pardon. Yeah. So he never discloses that relationship. Blanche never discloses that relationship. It matters. Just as Epstein, when he goes on Fox News, doesn't disclose that he was Epstein's lawyer that negotiated the NDA, the non-prosecution agreement. He was accused by Virginia Giuffre of him having sex with her when she was underage, although she later sort of recanted that story, but he was embroiled in that. He never discloses that. He never discloses his close relationship with David Oscar Markus. I had to find it. How did I find that close relationship between the two of them? I went on David Oscar Markus's website, and there's a photo because he's so proud of being the mentee for his mentor, Alan Dershowitz up in Harvard. So you get a geeky, nerdy photo. I mean, he's already geeky, nerdy, but it was worse. In the photo, here's the photo. So look at the dots here. Blanche and Markus, tight. Markus' client, Ghislaine Maxwell. Dershowitz brings in Markus likely to represent Maxwell. He used to represent Epstein. He got accused by Virginia Giuffre. And Donald Trump's so upside down because you can't remember a lie as well as you can remember the truth. I mean, physiologically, brain science, they show you if you're telling the truth or it's a true fact, it's burned into your brain, in the receptors of your brain, in your brain. But if it's a lie, it's sort of just free radical. It just travels lightly in your head. You got to keep track of it. Donald Trump can't keep track of it. And he goes to Scotland. Where he's gassed. You know, it was too much golf where he cards at 18 because he gets a hole in one on every hole because his Secret Service that you and I are paying for are pushing the balls into the hole. So he's gassed. He doesn't like to travel anyway. And he's given interviews left and right. 90-minute speeches that don't make any sense in front of foreign leaders. And then he's asked about Giuffre and the falling out with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, his position had always been, quote, he was a creep and I barred him from Mar-a-Lago. We also heard that there was a falling out over a piece of real estate where they were both bidding on this $40 million piece of real estate in Florida, which kind of made more sense. But the creep thing never made sense because if you knew he was a creep, did you know he was a creep because he was raping girls? And shouldn't you have reported that to authorities? So I never thought he was a creep and I barred him from Mar-a-Lago helped him. I thought it hurt him. But then it got worse because then when he was asked what was the falling out about when you barred him, he said it's because he was poaching and stealing young girls from me. I don't think that's a defense. It's a depraved defense. I was mad that he stole Virginia Giuffre from me, who was 17 years old working in my spa without seeing, talk about a blind spot. How about the fact that Virginia Giuffre and a lot of these women where Epstein, under the blind or watchful eye of Donald Trump, turned Mar-a-Lago into his personal hunting ground? I don't think that's the aspect of the story. The blind spot is what Jeffrey Epstein did with the girls after he poached them from you, isn't it? And if you thought it was bad and he was stealing little girls and you knew that he liked young women because you gave a New York magazine interview back in 2003 and you thought that, then why didn't you report it to the authorities so that hundreds, if not thousands of women would have been protected? Here's the clip of Donald Trump. It's not even foot in mouth. It's shooting himself in the head. Here you go.
Just to button up on Mar-a-Lago, you're saying that Jeffrey Epstein poached 2 of your staffers. Who were they? Were they young?
I don't want to say 2, or I don't want to say any number. You're talking about many years ago. But yeah, he took people. And because he took people, I said, don't do it anymore. You know, they work for me. And he took, beyond that, he took some others. And once he did that, that was the end of him. I didn't like, when they steal people, I don't like it.
Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women?
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa?
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
All right. So those are the dots. I thank you, mainstream media, for coming around to connecting the dot that I did between Todd Blanche and David Oscar Markus. David Oscar Markus now and Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz to Epstein. Dershowitz and Epstein to Giuffre. Giuffre to Donald Trump. There it is. It's like Homeland. I put that board together for you. And I'm glad you're here with me. I'm Michael Popok. Hit the subscribe button for Midas Touch. Hit the subscribe button for Legal AF. And until my next report. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.